Hello and welcome to another shop update for the makerspace. It's been a while since I made any makerspace videos, so I thought I'd do that. It's been pretty busy. Had my usual babysitting duties, although they've lessened quite considerably. And we had a couple of disasters. Termite invasion in the basement, had to slaughter them off. And then I burst a couple of pipes. When I get a clog, it's getting unclogged or the house is getting blowed up. So I exploded this pipe, flooded my basement, fixed it wrong, flooded my basement. And then we had a rainstorm and flooded my basement. So yeah, I've had three floods in this summer. It's kept me kind of busy and a little bit on the let's just say irritated side, but I'm getting them all sorted out. And yeah, you just take it as it comes. You know, life is filled with little unexpected oddities. So here's some things we tried that failed. I have this EcoTank printer. It's great. You just put ink in it and I can print out my labels and stuff. You don't have to worry about expensive cartridges. So I had the idea, why not buy a second one? And what I'm going to do with the second one is to fill all the tanks with white ink, thinking that this will be a really cheap way to have a white ink printer, because white ink printers are very expensive. I've been trying to find a way of creating better decals by using white ink. So it was an idea, spent a couple $100, and the results are terrible. This has actually came from someone else who printed it. Mine were even worse than this. You can see the one on the left is just pale. I still haven't figured out a way of getting a really nice, vibrant, opaque image of white to make decals with. So that was kind of a failure on my part. Live and learn. I bought this frozen in January, and it was a pretty big investment. I had very, very high hopes for it. Spent a lot of time, you know, going back and forth before I finally decided to pull the trigger and buy this thing. I'm 90% convinced the company sent me a defective return because it had someone else's name on the box. The arrows pointing up or the wrong way. This circuit board was held on by double-sided tape. Someone had pulled it off and slapped it back on without replacing the tape. It popped loose, blocked the light. Long story short, I pretty much spent about 8 months, I guess, trying to get a print out of this thing and never got a single good print. Eventually, I replaced the screen and figured everything out. I can't get it to work. It just... It's a multi, let's just say it's about a $1,200 paperweight at this time. I've burned through a couple $100 worth of resin and didn't get a single good result. So that's a problem that I have to fix. I had a little bit of an issue with the CNC machine. Surprise, surprise. That thing has been like a curse from hell. And what it did, it picked up some backlash on the x-axis and it was ruining molds by stepping over, as you can see in this thing. But I compensated for it in the software. It's got a little bit of a hiccup in its step now, but it pretty much jumps 9 thousandths extra every time it moves. And I did manage to finish that mold up for a guy. But I noticed one of the problems is when you make a mold such as that, you need to remove almost all the material except for the one part that sticks up. And that takes a lot of time. So I've got an angle that I'm trying to do to fix that. But yeah, it is what it is. Here's another issue, maybe, you know, because of the pandemic or whatever, but yeah, sales aren't going to improve. We just recently had an election. I don't think that the shipping issue is going to get resolved, or the tariff issues, and I just don't see there's any way that I'm going to be able to ship to international customers in a fair way. Amazon and eBay jack up their rates, so you can see they're taking a bite out of your sales. They're taking a pretty hard bite. I mean, and eBay has made it so complex you can't even figure out what they're charging, to be honest with you. So that's all the bad news. Let's get on to the good news. I got some boxes. Found some guys on Fiverr, paid them a couple of bucks. Fiverr is a little bit misleading because they charge a lot more than $5. But I got some artwork done and got some boxes printed. So I'm very happy about that. It's kind of not happy with the packaging that I was using. So I got some better packaging coming. This is a new Epax printer. Haven't even got it hooked up yet. I picked them because they had the best rated customer service, supposedly. You go on YouTube and get a review, and you're getting a review by someone who's being paid for by the company they're reviewing. You know the whole deal with corrupt YouTube reviews, whatever. Take it with a grain of salt. I'll let you know how it works out. This is something that is coming together pretty good. We're getting some of these. This is jig plate, precision molded. We're going to try to create some pretty good backing plates, and then 3D print the molds for on the backing plates, which should cut down a lot on the CNC time too. So this is one example of that. This one has the bolt pattern that'll fit. You can basically make this. Actually, I printed this with the Photon, the little small resin 3D printer. But of course, obviously, this plate is designed so that even the larger resin 3D printer, I can make even bigger things. The nice thing about having a 3D printer is you can test fit things. When I made the Cyclone, I couldn't test print anything because I didn't have a 3D printer. At least not a resin one. I had like one of those filament ones, and they're not too swift. So this is a plaster cast that I made from a 3D print, and hopefully it'll simplify the process. It'll allow better detail, and it'll also allow sharper angles, because a round bit can only go so far into a square corner before it's rounded. So I don't know. So let's talk about some of the improvements made to handle some of these challenges. I got some new lights in the shop, and I built this little workstation in the back specifically for lost wax casting. I like these little things from Amazon that have switches. There are power strips with individually controllable switches. It makes me feel like I'm operating a spaceship or something. So I got this vibration table. Naturally, I got it off eBay. Naturally, it didn't work. It had a busted piece in there. I actually found a piece of bronze and created a bushing on my grinder, and I fixed it. So whatever, I gave the guy neutral feedback for sending me junk. Picked up this vacuum pump for the same purpose as the vibration table. In order to get bubbles out of your silicone or your plaster, you can use vacuum. And this is a vacuum chamber, or you can use a vibration table. So I just got them both. When you look at the plaster cast that I had previously, you'll see there was air bubbles in it. I need to eliminate those air bubbles. So got some equipment there, and it's kind of nice to have the right tools to work. I built this curing station. We have a area around us that sells refurbished cabinets that people donate, and I always buy stuff there. So I got this little cabinet, lined it with aluminum foil, put a couple of lights in there with that little turntable in there. One of the things that I realize is when you do lost wax casting, wax really shrinks. I got it narrowed down that it's shrinking between 2 and 3%. So I made these go, no-go blocks so I can get exactly how much the shrinkage is. The little electric furnace or smelter that I had, it didn't have too big of a capacity, and I think it kind of burned out on its second use. It was a pile of junk. So I bought that propane one. Obviously, I need to figure out the secret to casting, because what happens is the cast goes in there and it just blows out over the side. I got to work on that a little bit. We got this in the shop too. This is not mine. It's owned by another gentleman in the area who's he dabbles with a lot of resin and stuff like that, and he decided he was going to get into spin casting. So it's temporarily stored in my shop, but at some point it's nice to know that the little makerspace network we got going on has a complete spin casting setup available to it, which is kind of nice. And this is interesting. I've kind of evolved out of doing things for the gaming industry for the most part, because there is an absolute fire hose of products coming in. In addition to that, a lot of gamers are printing their own miniatures, which I purchased this Artisans Guild set of STL files, and I started resin printing them. But I'm not sure if I like that. I don't really like resin figures. The spears are so frail. You can't even breathe on them. I mean, if you get mad and hurl your figures at the wall or something like that, they're all going to break. I don't know. I mean, so I'm still debating if it's worth trying to put the effort into making plastic figures. Now, mainly I'll be making them for myself. If I sell some, that'd be fine. But the 3D printed ones are nice. Don't get me wrong, because of they're there. But, man, they are brittle. This is another thing that I'm going to have to come up with a solution for. Is this is a 1/43rd scale car, and I was thinking, man, if I could get this laser scanned, I could reverse engineer this and shrink this thing down and make one out of 1/32nd scale. So I'm working on that. One good success was I found someone to chrome plate bumpers. I may have failed with the decals, but the damn chrome is going to come through. So here's my old slot car room. Yeah, it's kind of like I missed this baby, but it had to go. The termites were right in above it. Tore everything out, scraped the old lock. What was a dry lock? Has been on the wall for 20-some years. That stuff flakes after a couple years. So I wire brushed everything in there, got it all cleaned up, and got it all painted. I installed new lighting, and on my personal little project list, I'm working on a new track, and I'm going to put a video up of the track build, and it's a pretty complicated video, so it might be like a 6-hour mini series by the time it's done. The track's going to be portable. It's going to be on these wheels. It folds up so that I can roll it up against the wall. It's going to have it's going to be convertible from an oval to a road course, so it's going to be a roval. So there you have it. That's what's been going on at the shop. Some bad news, some good news, but you never stop trying, you know. It's just, you just got to roll with whatever comes your way and just keep on plugging away. So in the meantime, I'm building some cars, painting miniatures. I got 140 figures added to my Empire Warhammer 3rd Edition army this year, and I'm tickled about that. It's nice to see some new troops in the line. So, all right, guys, have a great holiday, and more updates later.